Have you ever found yourself completely stuck between two great choices, wishing you could just, have it all? Well, that's kind of the core problem of being human, isn't it? We have endless desires, but unfortunately limited time, money, and energy. So today we're going to dig into how the rules of economics, economics, can actually help us get a handle on these tough choices, not just in our finances, but in everything from our careers to our relationships.
And really, Mick Jagger nailed the heart of economics with this one. It's not really about money and spreadsheets, it's about making choices. Think about it. Every single time you say yes to something, a new job, a date, even just a night in on the couch, you are, without even thinking about it, saying no to countless other things. That choice, that fork in the road, that's a trade-off. And just understanding that is the first step to making way better decisions.
All right, so how do we get good at this? Here's our game plan. First, we're going to learn to think like an economist. Don't worry, it's easier than it sounds. Then, we'll look at the sneaky mental biases that trip all of us up, and we'll see it all in action with 3 real-life stories. By the end, you'll have a whole new toolkit for tackling life's tough calls. Okay, let's jump right in. What's so great about economics is that it gives us a way to cut through all the emotional clutter when we have to make a big decision. It's really just a system for weighing the good against the bad, the pros and the cons, so we can find the clearest path forward. And the most fundamental tool for this is something called a cost-benefit analysis. Now, you can think of this like a pro-con list on steroids. It's just a clear, simple way of stacking up all the potential good things about a decision against all the potential bad things. If the benefits pile up higher than the costs, you go for it. If not, you walk. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, maybe.
Let's try it out. Imagine you're thinking about going to grad school. You do a quick cost-benefit analysis. Okay, on the cost side, there's the tuition, a pretty painful 45 grand. But on the benefit side, you get a bigger brain, maybe you can sleep in a little later, and hopefully you land a job you actually love. I mean, looking at it like this, it seems like a pretty easy decision. But this simple view is missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And that missing piece is something called opportunity cost. This is like the secret ingredient to thinking like an economist, because the real cost of anything isn't just the price tag, it's everything you had to give up to get it. It's that other job you didn't take, the trip you didn't go on. It's the road not taken. And seeing these hidden costs is the only way to understand the true price of any choice. So let's go back to that grad school decision, but this time with our new superpower of seeing opportunity costs. Whoa! Suddenly the picture looks totally different. The cost isn't just $45,000. It's 2 years of salary you're not earning. It's the promotion you might miss. It's the retirement money you're not putting away. It's your free weekends. Once you add all that up, the decision gets a whole lot tougher. So it seems like we have the tools to make these perfectly rational choices. But here's the problem. We're not robots, we're humans, and our own minds, with all their emotions and biases and weird mental shortcuts, can get in the way and make us go against our own best interests. So let's explore these psychological traps that can mess up our best-laid plans. And don't worry, you're not going to need a calculator for this. The hard part of making good decisions usually isn't the math. It's all the noise inside our own heads. It's our feelings and our gut reactions that can cloud our judgment right when we need to be thinking clearly. Economists have a name for these little mental glitches: decision-making biases. They're like these invisible currents that pull us off course, making us act on impulse or get so hung up on one detail that we totally lose sight of the big picture. Now, let's see what happens when these biases take over in real life. All right, for our first case study, we're going to meet a couple who were on the edge of a financial cliff. They felt totally trapped and overwhelmed. But as we're about to see, a tiny little shift in how they saw their problem changed absolutely everything. So this is Claire and Sean. They were a young couple drowning in debt. Sean had just started his dream job as a baseball coach, which sounds amazing, but the pay was low and the hours were brutal. It was putting a massive strain on them, and they were just stuck in this awful loop of stress and fighting with no obvious way out. Now, Claire and Sean were stuck in a really common trap. They were fixated on finding one giant magical solution. Like Sean getting a massive promotion or them winning the lottery. Because they were only looking for a home run, they were completely missing the small practical things they could do right now. The economic solution here is to think at the margin. It just means stop trying to solve the whole problem at once, and instead focus on one small, manageable change. So instead of waiting around for a miracle, they decided to think small. Claire was an amazing baker, so they had an idea. What if she sold her muffins? The cost? Well, Sean would have to skip a few of his team workouts to watch the kids. But the benefit? It was a little extra cash, a little breathing room. It wasn't going to make them rich overnight, but it was a start. And that tiny step grew and grew, eventually turning into a real business. It just goes to show you sometimes the biggest solutions start incredibly small.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever kept doing something you knew was a bad idea just because you'd already put so much time or money into it? If you said yes, you have fallen for one of the sneakiest mental traps out there, the sunk cost fallacy. Let's see how this trap can keep us chained to the past.
Okay, meet Caroline and Tom. Total power couple. She was a lawyer, he was a neuropsychologist. They had poured years of their lives and thousands of dollars into climbing to the very top of their fields. But they woke up one day and realized their success had cost them their marriage. They were living like roommates, and the connection they once had was just gone.
Caroline and Tom were completely trapped by sunk costs. They couldn't imagine giving up their careers after all those years of school, all that student debt. But here's the cold, hard, and actually liberating truth about sunk costs. They don't matter. What's spent is spent. You can't get it back. The only thing that truly matters when you're making a choice is what happens next. The only smart move is to make decisions based on the future you want, not the past you can't change.
We all have this really deep primal need for things to be fair. But what happens if that obsession with fairness is actually stopping you from getting what you want? In our last case study, we're going to look at how our own sense of justice can sometimes lead us to make choices that actually hurt us in the end.
To really see this in action, let's play a quick game. It's called the ultimatum game. Imagine I just hand you $100. All you have to do is offer a split to a total stranger. Now here's the deal. If they accept your offer, you both get the cash. But if they reject it, if they think you're being unfair, then neither of you gets a dime. So, what's your offer?
Now, if we were purely rational creatures, we'd accept any offer, right? Even $1 is better than $0. But that is not how we work. Just look at these results. The vast majority of people, 2/3 of them, offer a split of $40 to $50. Why? Because we know intuitively that most people would rather get absolutely nothing than accept a deal that feels insulting. Our drive for fairness is so powerful, we are literally willing to pay to punish someone for being unfair.
This powerful bias has a name. It's called inequity aversion, and it almost destroyed the marriage of another couple, Abby and Gus. Their shared dream was for Abby to become a doctor. So for almost a decade, Gus handled most of the parenting and earned the money while Abby survived grueling residencies. But over time, Gus became incredibly resentful. It just didn't feel fair that he was making all the sacrifices. And that feeling, that need for everything to be fair right now, almost made them quit on their shared dream. The solution is really hard. It's to focus on the long-term goal, on efficiency, on accepting that for any big, ambitious partnership, things might feel lopsided for a while.
Okay, so we've seen how these hidden biases can really mess with our heads. But the great news is, once you can see them, you can start to outsmart them. So in this last section, let's pull it all together and build our practical toolkit for making smarter, more intentional choices in our own lives.
Here it is, your new toolkit for life's choices. First, think at the margin. Let Claire and Sean stop searching for the silver bullet. Just focus on the next small step. Second, ignore sunk costs. Let the past go. Make your choices based on the future you're trying to build. And third, get over fair. Understand that the road to a big, shared goal won't always feel perfectly balanced in the short term. Keep these 3 ideas in your back pocket, and you'll be able to navigate even the toughest trade-off.
At the end of the day, making good decisions is a skill. It's not magic. And by understanding these basic economic ideas and the funny ways our brains are wired, we can all get better at it. So, the next time you're facing a really tough choice, just take a breath, try to think like an economist for a second, and ask yourself, what is the smartest trade-off I can make right now? I think you'll be surprised by the answer.